How many times have you held your thoughts back because you felt you weren't ready yet? For many women, confidence feels like a reward handed to them after approval, applause, or validation. It's as if self-assurance must be earned through recognition. But here lies the problem. Waiting for others to tell you you're enough only delays your growth. As the saying goes, he who hesitates is lost. Confidence shouldn't be a consequence. It should be the foundation. In this video, let's have an honest conversation from one woman to another. Not to blame anyone, not society, not any third party, but to reflect inward and untangle this quiet belief many of us carry, that we must wait to be seen before we can shine. 1. Why do women wait for validation to feel confident? There comes a point in life when you start to notice patterns not in the world, but in yourself. One of the patterns I've seen in many women, including myself, is the quiet pause before we speak, the internal second-guessing before we act, and the invisible checklist we feel we need to complete before we dare to believe we're enough. Confidence somehow feels like a milestone we're always one step away from reaching, and the strange part? No one's really stopping us except perhaps ourselves. The idiom holding yourself back hits the nail on the head. This waiting game doesn't look dramatic. In fact, it often appears perfectly polite, reasonable, even wise. We double-check our wording in emails, rehearse our thoughts in meetings before speaking, or wait until we're completely sure before suggesting an idea by which time the moment has already passed. We think we're being careful, but often it's just self-doubt in disguise. We believe that if we're good enough, someone will notice. But the truth is, if you don't toot your own horn, no one else will. This behavior isn't born from weakness, and it's certainly not exclusive to women. But many of us internalize the idea that confidence is something to be proven, not simply inhabited. It's a mindset that grows quietly, shaped by years of small, subtle experiences. It's not always about being told to stay quiet, it's about never being reminded that we have permission to speak up in the first place. Over time, that absence of encouragement can echo louder than any words. And the result? A strange internal belief that says, I need to earn the right to feel confident. We become experts at being capable without being visible. We put our heads down, do the work, wait for recognition to come, and when it doesn't, we take it as a sign that we need to try harder, be better, stay quieter. It's like walking on a treadmill and expecting to arrive somewhere new. Spinning your wheels is a fitting expression. We equate competence with humility, forgetting that competence without confidence often leads to being overlooked. The problem isn't that others don't see us, it's that we don't let ourselves be seen. What complicates matters is that many of us fear being perceived the wrong way. We worry about coming across as arrogant, overly ambitious, or self-centered, so we shrink a little. We soften our tone, downplay our achievements, wait for someone else to say, you did well before we believe it. And this fear is not irrational, it's learned. But just because we've learned something doesn't mean we have to keep living by it. As the saying goes, you can't fly with one foot on the ground. At some point, you have to decide whether you're going to keep waiting for approval or step forward as you are. There's also the matter of expectations we place on ourselves. Sometimes we don't need others to pressure us, we do it perfectly well on our own. We tell ourselves we need one more qualification, one more win, one more sign that we're ready. But readiness is a moving target. You can chase it forever. Confidence, on the other hand, is less about readiness and more about willingness. The willingness to trust yourself in real time. The willingness to speak, to act, to exist without a pre-approved permission slip. The only permission you need is your own, and that's something we often forget. We don't need to blame anyone to acknowledge this dynamic. We don't need a villain. This isn't a fight between men and women or society versus the individual. It's more personal than that. It's about recognizing the ways we've absorbed certain patterns, and more importantly, realizing we can unlearn them. Self-awareness is powerful, but only if it leads to action. Confidence isn't a prize you win at the end of a race. It's a habit you practice daily, quietly, steadily. And the more you use it, the more natural it becomes. Confidence grows where it's watered. Ultimately, the question isn't, why hasn't someone given me the confidence I deserve? But rather, why haven't I allowed myself to step into it? We don't need to be perfect. We don't need to be invincible. We just need to stop waiting for a green light that no one else is responsible for turning on. You already have everything you need to begin. So instead of waiting for the world to tell you, you're ready to tell yourself. And mean it. 2. The hidden cost of delayed confidence. There's a quiet price we pay every time we tell ourselves, not yet. It doesn't show up on a resume, nor is it something others can easily see, but it exists. It accumulates silently, like interest on a debt we didn't mean to take out. The cost of waiting to feel ready, of hesitating to speak up or step forward, is not just lost opportunities. It's the slow erosion of belief in ourselves. As the idiom goes, hesitation is the enemy of progress. Many of us carry an inner narrative that tells us we must be chosen before we act, endorsed before we lead, validated before we believe. And this narrative often feels so rational, so humble, so reasonable. We don't want to overstep. We don't want to appear arrogant. We don't want to be too much. But beneath those justifications lies something deeper, a lack of self-permission. Not because we are incapable, but because we've become so used to waiting for the nod from someone else that we've forgotten how to give it to ourselves. When this cycle goes unexamined, it reinforces itself. The more we hold back, the more we believe we're not quite ready. The more we defer, the more it feels like deferring is the right thing to do. And with every delayed decision, every unspoken idea, every role we don't apply for, we unintentionally affirm the false belief that we're not enough yet. The longer you wait for the perfect moment, the more likely you'll miss the best one. That's the trap. What makes the cycle especially tricky is that it often doesn't feel dramatic. It feels like being careful, responsible, and thoughtful, but there is a difference between being thoughtful and being stuck in self-doubt. One is grounded in wisdom, the other in fear. And fear doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Let someone else go first. Maybe next time. What if I'm wrong? These aren't signs of humility. They're signals of a pattern that quietly keeps us small. It's important to recognize that this isn't about blaming external forces or pointing fingers at who gets what and why. It's about pausing long enough to notice our internal habits, the ones that tell us to shrink before we've even tried. The ones that confuse patience with passivity and caution with self-censorship. As the saying goes, ships are safest in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for. Confidence is often misunderstood as arrogance, especially when expressed by those who have been conditioned to be agreeable. But true confidence isn't about being loud or brash, it's about being rooted. It's about knowing your value before someone else has to name it. And yes, that's easier said than done. It takes time to unlearn the idea that you need to wait to be seen. It takes courage to believe that your readiness doesn't have to be granted. It can be claimed. The real cost of delayed confidence is not just the roles we don't get or the recognition that passes us by. It's the quiet resignation that starts to settle in, the dimming of our own potential. It's waking up one day and realizing you've built a habit of holding back, of waiting for signs that may never come. Confidence is not a light at the end of the tunnel, it's a switch you flip inside yourself. And flipping that switch isn't about faking certainty or pretending to know everything. It's about accepting that not knowing doesn't disqualify you. It's about stepping into uncertainty with presence, with intention, with enough belief in your ability to figure things out as you go. Because here's the thing, confidence is rarely born from waiting, it's built from doing. So the question isn't, am I ready? The question is, what would change if I believed I was? That shift from seeking external confirmation to trusting internal conviction can transform the way we walk into rooms, speak up in conversations, and make decisions that shape our lives. As the idiom goes, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And sometimes the most important step is the one you take before you feel completely sure. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know everything. You just need to stop waiting for permission that no one but you can give. Confidence isn't a reward, it's a responsibility. And the longer you delay it, the higher the cost becomes not just in what you don't do, but in who you stop believing you can become. 3. Confidence is an action, not a reaction. There is a common misunderstanding that confidence arrives like a reward, something that is handed to us after we've already proven ourselves. But the reality, especially in adult life, is far less romantic and far more practical. Confidence is not the final product of external validation. It is the fuel that gets us started. It's something we do, not something we wait for. In other words, confidence is an action, not a reaction. Waiting to feel ready often becomes a lifelong delay tactic, cloaked in logic. I'll speak up once I know more. I'll take the opportunity once I've earned it. I'll say yes once someone believes I can. These sound like careful planning, but often they're just fear wearing the mask of strategy. And the problem with fear is that it rarely disappears on its own. As the saying goes, feel the fear and do it anyway. That's the real origin of confidence, not in certainty, but in movement despite uncertainty. Many adults, especially women, are conditioned to link their confidence with approval. Someone needs to say yes first. But if we keep waiting for permission to act, we surrender the most powerful truth of all, that we have the agency to choose ourselves. No one has a monopoly on granting legitimacy. And while encouragement from others is valuable, it should not be the only green light we trust. You are your own best advocate, and no one else can believe in you quite like you can learn to believe in yourself. Confidence in this sense becomes a habit like brushing your teeth or going for a walk. The first few times might feel awkward, forced even. But repetition builds muscle. Every time we speak up in a meeting, apply for something outside our comfort zone, or simply say what we think without editing ourselves for approval, we reinforce the muscle memory of self-trust. Practice makes permanent, not just perfect. The shift happens when we realize confidence is not about knowing everything. It's about being willing to figure things out along the way. The myth that we need to be fully prepared before taking a leap holds many of us back, not because we're unprepared, but because we assume preparation guarantees outcome. Life doesn't work like that. And truthfully, the bold often get further than the brilliant simply because they try. As the idiom goes, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If we wait silently, hoping our value will be noticed without ever asserting it, we may be bypassed not because we lack merit, but because we never took the wheel. Taking action builds confidence far more effectively than reflection alone. It's not that introspection isn't valuable, it is, but thinking endlessly about our potential doesn't replace proving it to ourselves through experience. You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do. Confidence grows when we show up consistently, even when our inner voice wavers. It's grown through proof, not proof from others, but from ourselves to ourselves. It also helps to reframe mistakes not as failures, but as data. If we act and the outcome is imperfect, it's not confirmation that we weren't ready. It's just a step forward in learning. Fall down 7 times, stand up 8. That's the essence of adult growth. And the more we detach confidence from perfection, the more resilient we become. The truth is, self-assurance isn't the absence of doubt, it's the willingness to move despite it. Of course, it would be easier if we were constantly reassured that we're doing well. But the world doesn't operate like a classroom with gold stars. In the real world, especially in professional and personal growth, those who act are often the ones who get noticed, not necessarily those who wait patiently to be noticed. Fortune favors the bold, not the silent. Being proactive doesn't mean being reckless. It means stepping into the space where your value belongs without waiting for someone else to clear the path. It means choosing to try, even when your inner critic tells you to hold back. It means knowing that confidence is less about how loudly you speak and more about how consistently you show up. So when that moment comes when you're hesitating, wondering whether you're ready, whether you're enough, the better question to ask is, what would a confident version of me do right now? And then do that, even if your voice shakes, even if your hands tremble. Because, as the idiom goes, action breeds confidence and courage, not the other. Ultimately, confidence isn't something that happens to us. It's something we learn to create and recreate over and over again. It's a decision, a discipline, a choice. And like most things in adulthood, it's not given. It's built one step at a time. 4. Built confidence. Quiet acts, strong circles. Confidence isn't something you stumble upon one day like buried treasure. It's something you construct brick by brick, step by step through your actions, not your wishes. And often, it begins in the quietest, most uncelebrated places. Confidence grows like a muscle. It responds to consistent use, not sudden applause. The small things, sharing an idea even when your voice shakes, choosing to write something that no one may read, asking for feedback when it feels safer to stay silent, are all ways of building internal proof. Each act, no matter how insignificant it seems, is a message to yourself. I'm capable. I'm trying. I'm enough to begin. There's a powerful idiom that says, "Great oaks from little acorns grow." What this means in practice is that you don't need grand gestures to validate your worth. You need momentum. And momentum is almost always built in solitude through repetition. It's in the habit of showing up, even when no one else is watching. The applause may never come or may come years later, but the transformation is internal. And that's the kind that lasts. However, no matter how self-reliant we try to be, the truth is, we don't thrive in a vacuum. Building confidence is not just an individual act, it's relational. It's shaped by the people we let into our orbit. But here's the nuance. We need to be surrounded not just by people who support us, but by those who can stretch us. There's a delicate line between encouragement and empty affirmation. While it's comforting to only hear "you're doing great," growth often requires hearing, "You can do better, and I know you will." This is why a safe ecosystem matters more than an echo chamber. In an echo chamber, we surround ourselves with voices that mirror our own, and though that may feel empowering at first, it can quickly become limiting. There's an old saying, if two people always agree, one of them isn't thinking. We need to be challenged not combatively, but constructively. Feedback shouldn't be feared if it comes from a place of care. A safe space isn't one where you're never questioned. It's one where your dignity is protected while your growth is prioritized, and that growth is mutual. You're not just there to receive, you're also there to give. Part of building confidence is recognizing your own ability to contribute. When you're in a circle where people share ideas, exchange critique, and hold each other accountable, with kindness, you begin to internalize your value not through validation, but through active participation. It's the difference between being praised and being trusted. And trust, unlike praise, is earned through consistency. One of the most empowering realizations is that you don't have to do everything alone, nor should you. Confidence isn't the absence of doubt, it's the decision to move forward in spite of it. And sometimes the push we need doesn't come from inside ourselves, but from someone beside us saying, "I see what you're capable of. Keep going." That kind of support is rare, but it's worth cultivating. It's also important to periodically evaluate your environment. Not every group or community will be right for your current season of growth. Some will feel too soft, offering only comfort. Others may be too harsh, demanding more than you're ready to give. The goal is to find that balanced space where you are both nurtured and challenged, where growth is encouraged, but your humanity is still honored. As the saying goes, too much sunshine makes a desert. You need both warmth and weathering to grow strong. At the end of the day, confidence is a living thing. It needs practice, people, and patience. You can't force it, but you can feed it. With each small action and each strong connection, you build your own proof. And the more you accumulate those quiet wins and trusted allies, the more you realize you never needed permission to begin. You only needed to start. 6. Conclusion. Be the first to recognize yourself. Waiting to be seen is like keeping your car in neutral and hoping someone else turns the key. Recognition is wonderful, but it should be a bonus, not a prerequisite. You are allowed to be confident even if no one claps. You're allowed to trust yourself even when others don't know what you're capable of. So today, I invite you not to shout louder, but to stand firmer. To stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself credit. Confidence isn't arrogance, it's self-respect in action. To close with a final thought, don't wait for someone to light your fire. carry your own matches. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.